Snow fell in thick, relentless sheets across the Colorado mountains as darkness descended. The flakes swirled violently in the bitter wind, each one like a tiny blade against exposed skin. In the backyard of an imposing modernist mansion perched on the Aspen hillside, 6-year-old Emma Morgan stood shivering. Her small frame trembled uncontrollably as she balanced on her one good leg, her prosthetic limbs submerged in a plastic tub filled with ice water. "Stand up straight," Victoria Hayes Morgan commanded, her voice cutting through the howling wind. "Your father conquered mountains and led men into battle. He built an empire. You want him to be proud of you, don't you?" The girl's lips had turned blue, her blonde hair plastered against her pale face by the falling snow. Her thin pajamas offered no protection against the biting cold. "I can't feel my leg anymore," Emma whispered through chattering teeth. Victoria stepped closer, her perfect features hardening into something unrecognizable to anyone who knew her as the charming wife of tech mogul Alexander Morgan. "Strength comes from pain, Emma. My father taught me that. Now your father is never home to teach you anything, so I will." When Victoria turned to answer her ringing phone, Emma's trembling fingers reached for the smartwatch secured to her wrist, a birthday gift from her father. The child's frozen fingertips clumsily navigated to the messaging app and typed 6 desperate words. "Daddy, please help me. I'm scared." The screen went black before she could press send. The scene faded to white as snow obscured everything from view. Cruel blizzard. 40 miles away, Alexander Alex Morgan gripped the steering wheel of his Range Rover with white knuckles. The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the thickening blizzard. His vehicle crawled along the winding mountain road toward Aspen, visibility reduced to mere feet ahead. The radio crackled with the emergency broadcast system. "This is an extreme weather warning. All residents are advised to stay indoors. Interstate 70 is now closed due to whiteout conditions." Alex reached over to silence it, his jaw clenched tight. Next to him in the passenger seat, Shadow, his German shepherd, stood alert. The dog's ears perked forward, sensing his master's tension. "Something's wrong, boy," Alex muttered. "I can feel it." Shadow whined in response, pressing his nose against the cold window. Alex had abruptly left a critical investment meeting in Denver 3 hours earlier. The deal, worth over $400 million, had been months in preparation. But halfway through his presentation, an overwhelming sense of dread had washed over him. He'd never experienced anything like it before, not even during his most dangerous missions as a Navy SEAL. His phone showed no signal bars in the remote mountain pass. The last message from home had been a cheerful video call with Emma 3 days ago. Everything had seemed normal then, hadn't it? The memory replayed in his mind. "How's my brave girl?" he had asked, smiling at his daughter's face on the screen. Emma had hesitated just a fraction too long before answering. "I'm okay, Daddy. When are you coming home?" "Tuesday, sweetheart. Just 2 more meetings. Mom Tori says I need to be stronger if I want you to be proud of me." He had been distracted by an incoming email. A major security breach at a client's firm demanded immediate attention. "That's nice, honey. Listen, Daddy has to go now." The look in Emma's eyes as he ended the call now haunted him. Had there been fear there? A silent plea he'd missed? Shadow suddenly barked, lunging forward against his harness. Alex slammed the brakes instinctively as a fallen tree appeared in the headlights, blocking half the road. The SUV skidded, tires fighting for traction. With expert precision, Alex steered into the skid, narrowly avoiding a plunge off the edge of the mountain road. "Thanks, boy," he breathed, reaching over to pat the dog's head. Shadow had saved their lives countless times before, both in war zones and now in peacetime. The detour would add another hour to their journey. Alex's hands tightened on the wheel as he thought about the morning's events. The panoramic windows of the Morgan Cybersecurity headquarters in Denver had offered a stunning view of the Rocky Mountains, but Alex hadn't noticed it. The boardroom was silent as he stared at the framed photograph on his desk. It showed Emma sitting on his shoulders at her 5th birthday party, both of them laughing. Victoria stood beside them, her smile perfect as always. His chief financial officer had been midway through the quarterly report. Fourth quarter revenues exceeded projections by 30%, putting us at $850 million for the year. The Pentagon contract alone. Alex had stood abruptly, interrupting. "I need to go home." His executive assistant, Rachel, had followed him to his office. Mr. Morgan, you can't leave now. The duty representatives are flying in tomorrow in the Nakamura merger. Cancel everything, he had said, already packing his laptop. But sir, the $400 million deal. Alex had paused, looking up at her. Rachel, I've learned to trust my instincts. Right now, they're screaming that my daughter needs me. As snow continued to pound his windshield, Alex wondered if he was overreacting. Perhaps Victoria was right when she called him paranoid. The war had changed him, left him seeing threats and shadows. But Shadow's continued restlessness confirmed his suspicions. The animal had an uncanny sense for danger. We're almost there, boy, Alex murmured, more to himself than the dog. The mansion appeared through the swirling snow, a modern structure of glass and stone perched on the mountainside, illuminated from within. From the outside, it looked like the perfect home. Alex had purchased it after his cybersecurity company went public 3 years ago. It represented everything he had worked for: success, security, a safe place for his daughter. After losing his wife Jennifer in the car accident that had also taken Emma's leg, the house was meant to be their fresh start. Victoria had come into their lives a year later. Beautiful, charming, seemingly perfect. She had swept Alex off his feet, promising to be the mother Emma needed. As he pulled into the driveway, Alex noticed Victoria's Porsche was parked outside rather than in the garage. Unusual for a snowstorm this severe. The front door was unlocked. The foyer stood empty, the house eerily quiet except for the faint sound of the wind. Alex called out, "Emma? Victoria?" No response. Shadow growled low in his throat, hackles rising. The dog moved purposefully toward the back of the house, nose to the ground. Alex followed, his military training kicking in. He moved silently, senses heightened. The back door stood slightly ajar, snowflakes drifting through the opening. Through the glass, Alex saw 2 figures in the yard. What happened next would burn itself into his memory forever. Victoria stood over Emma, who remained in the tub of ice water. The child was barely conscious now, her small body trembling violently. Victoria's voice carried through the door. 10 more minutes, then you can come inside." Something primal awakened in Alex. The disciplined businessman vanished, replaced by the warrior who had commanded elite soldiers in the world's most dangerous places. The father whose child was in danger. He flung the door open with such force that it shattered the glass. Victoria spun around, her perfect features registering shock, then quickly composing into a mask of concern. "Alex, you're home early," she said, voice shifting to a warm tone that now sounded grotesquely false. "We were just... What the hell are you doing to my daughter?" The words came out as a barely controlled roar. Before Victoria could answer, Shadow bounded past both adults, straight to Emma. The dog whined, gently nudging the semi-conscious child. Alex pushed past Victoria, lifting Emma from the ice bath. Her skin felt like frozen marble against his hands, her lips blue, her eyes unfocused. He wrapped his coat around her tiny frame. "It's therapy," Victoria said quickly, her voice steady despite the dangerous situation. "Cold exposure builds mental toughness. My father used this technique with me. I only want her to be strong, like you." Alex cradled Emma against his chest, feeling her violent shivering. "This isn't therapy," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "This is torture." Victoria stepped forward, reaching toward Emma. "You don't understand. She needs to overcome her weakness. The prosthetic makes her different, and children are cruel." "I'm helping her." Shadow positioned himself between Victoria and Alex, teeth bared in warning. The dog had never shown aggression toward Victoria before. "Don't come near her," Alex said. "Don't even look at her." Emma stirred against his chest. "Daddy?" Her voice was barely audible, her small fingers clutching weakly at his shirt. "I'm here, sweetheart," he whispered. "You're safe now." He carried her toward the house, Shadow following closely, still growling at Victoria. As they passed through the doorway, Alex spoke without turning. "If you follow us, I won't be responsible for what happens next." Inside, he wrapped Emma in blankets and carried her straight to his SUV. The engine was still warm. He cranked the heat to maximum and placed her in the back seat with Shadow curled protectively around her. Only then did Alex notice the bruises. Purple marks on her arms, older yellowish ones on her legs above the prosthetic. Evidence of ongoing abuse, not a one-time incident. His hands shook with rage as he started the engine. Victoria appeared on the front steps of the mansion, her composure cracking slightly. "Alex, you're overreacting. Where are you taking her?" He didn't answer. The SUV fishtailed slightly as he accelerated down the driveway, snow swirling in their wake. In the rearview mirror, Victoria became a diminishing figure, her perfect silhouette framed by the perfect house, both now revealed as beautiful facades concealing ugliness. Emma drifted in and out of consciousness during the drive to Aspen Valley Hospital. Shadow remained pressed against her, sharing his warmth. Alex called ahead using the SUV's system. "This is Alexander Morgan. My daughter has severe hypothermia and possible other injuries. We'll arrive in approximately 15 minutes. The hospital staff was waiting when they arrived. Dr. Jennifer Winters, a pediatrician with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair, took charge immediately. "How long was she exposed?" she asked, as nurses transferred Emma to a treatment room. "I don't know exactly. At least 10 minutes in ice water, outdoors in this blizzard. God knows how long before I arrived." The doctor's expression remained professional, but her eyes hardened. "And how did this happen, Mr. Morgan?" Alex's voice broke slightly. "Her stepmother, my wife." Shadow refused to leave Emma's side, unusual behavior permitted only because of Alex's prominent status in the community. The dog's presence seemed to comfort Emma, who reached for his fur whenever consciousness returned. Hours passed in the sterile hospital room. Emma's body temperature gradually normalized. X-rays and examinations revealed no permanent physical damage from the hypothermia, but they showed something else. Dr. Winters pulled Alex aside, her voice low and controlled. "Mr. Morgan, the bruising patterns on Emma's body indicate repeated trauma over weeks, possibly months. The older bruises have distinctive shapes, fingers, hands. This wasn't a one-time incident." Something cold and heavy settled in Alex's stomach. "Are you saying my wife has been hurting my daughter regularly?" The evidence suggests ongoing physical abuse, yes, and given Emma's reluctance to speak about it, psychological abuse as well. The doctor handed him a tablet showing X-ray images. "Additionally, we found evidence of a hairline fracture in her right wrist that healed approximately 6 weeks ago. Was this injury reported to you?" Alex shook his head, the room suddenly seeming to spin around him. "No, Victoria told me Emma was doing well. Our video calls, they seem normal." Children who experience abuse often become adept at hiding it, especially when threatened or manipulated. Shadow whined from Emma's bedside. The child had awakened again, her eyes now clear but filled with fear. "Daddy?" she called weakly. Alex moved to her side immediately, taking her small hand in his. "I'm here, sweetheart." Emma's eyes darted to the doorway, then back to her father. "Is Mom Tori coming?" The fear in her voice made Alex's heart constrict. "No, honey, she's not coming here." Relief washed over the child's features, then shame. "I tried to be strong like you, Daddy. I really tried, but it hurt so much, and I got so cold." Alex felt tears burning behind his eyes. "Emma, listen to me. What happened was wrong. Very wrong. You are already the strongest, bravest person I know. No one should ever hurt you like that." "But Mom Tori said if I told you, you wouldn't love me anymore, that you'd think I was weak and broken." Rage flared through Alex so intensely that for a moment he couldn't speak. Shadow sensed his distress and pressed closer to Emma protectively. "Nothing could ever make me stop loving you," Alex finally managed, his voice rough with emotion. "Nothing in this world. You are perfect exactly as you are." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "She said my leg makes me broken, that no one will ever want me unless I learn to be tougher." "Your leg doesn't make you broken," Alex said fiercely. "It makes you a warrior. Like me, like Shadow." He gestured to the dog's scarred ear. "We all have our battle marks. They just show how strong we are." A nurse entered, carrying Emma's belongings in a plastic bag. "Her clothes and personal items, Mr. Morgan." Alex recognized Emma's small pink backpack and the smartwatch he'd given her for her last birthday, a special model that allowed her to call or message him anytime. The nurse handed him the watch. "She was clutching this when you brought her in. The battery died, but we charged it." As Alex took the device, The screen illuminated, revealing multiple unsent draft messages. Daddy, Mom Tori is mad again. She hurt my arm today. I'm scared to sleep. And the final one from today. Daddy, please help me. I'm scared. Alex's hands trembled as he scrolled through the messages, each one stabbed like a physical wound. His daughter had been silently crying for help while he was consumed with billion-dollar contracts and corporate expansions. Emma had fallen asleep again, exhaustion claiming her. Shadow maintained his vigilant position beside her bed. The dog's amber eyes tracked Alex's movements as if assessing his next actions. Dr. Winters returned with a police officer, a standard protocol in suspected abuse cases. The officer, a young woman with a serious expression, spoke quietly. Mr. Morgan will need to document your daughter's injuries and take your statement. Alex nodded, his mind already racing ahead. I'll cooperate fully, but I need to make a call first. Stepping into the hallway, Alex dialed his lawyer's number. Despite the late hour, Richard Harmon answered immediately, the benefit of being one of the firm's most valuable clients. Alex, what's happened? I need divorce papers drawn up immediately, Richard, and an emergency restraining order. The lawyer's tone shifted to professional concern. Against whom? Victoria. She's been abusing Emma. I have medical evidence. A brief pause. That's a serious allegation. Are you certain? Alex described what he'd witnessed and the hospital's findings. His voice remained controlled, but ice cold. I want her out of our lives. Completely. I don't care what it costs. I understand, Richard said gravely. I'll have the papers ready by morning and file for the emergency order tonight. But Alex, be careful. If she's capable of hurting Emma, there's no telling what else she might do when cornered. After ending the call, Alex stood motionless in the sterile hospital hallway. Memories flooded his mind. His first meeting with Victoria at a charity gala, her charming smile, how good she had seemed with Emma initially. Had it all been an act? How could he have been so blind? His phone buzzed with incoming calls and messages from Victoria. He silenced it without reading them. Whatever explanation or excuse she offered meant nothing now. Outside the hospital windows, the blizzard continued to rage, snow piling against the glass like a white wall. Alex stared at his reflection. The successful CEO, the former elite soldier, the man who prided himself on assessing threats and protecting what mattered. Yet he had failed to protect the person who mattered most. Shadow's sudden bark from Emma's room snapped him back to the present. He rushed inside to find Emma thrashing in her sleep, caught in a nightmare. No, please, she whimpered. I'll be good, I promise. Alex gathered her gently into his arms. Shh, you're safe, Emma. Daddy's here. Her eyes flew open, wild with fear, before recognition dawned. She clutched at his shirt. Don't leave me again, she begged. Please don't go. I won't, he promised, his voice breaking. I'm staying right here. Shadow jumped onto the foot of the bed, positioning himself like a sentinel. Emma reached out to touch the dog's fur, seeming to draw comfort from his solid presence. Shadow knew, she whispered. He tried to help me. That's why Mom Tori wouldn't let him in the house anymore. Another revelation that hit Alex like a physical blow. Victoria had insisted the dog stay in the heated outdoor kennel for the past month, claiming allergies had developed. Emma's small voice continued, words tumbling out now that the dam of secrecy had broken. She said you gave her permission to punish me, that you knew I needed to be tougher. Never, Alex said firmly. I would never allow anyone to hurt you. She showed me text messages from you. Alex frowned. What messages? On her phone, you said, do whatever you need to. Just make her stronger. The realization struck like lightning. Victoria had shown Emma fabricated messages, using his own words to justify her cruelty. The psychological manipulation was perhaps even more sinister than the physical abuse. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Dr. Winters entered, accompanied by a tall man in a sheriff's uniform, whose presence immediately commanded attention. Mr. Morgan, the doctor said, Sheriff Garrett Foster would like to speak with you. The sheriff stepped forward. His weathered face and steady gaze spoke of experience beyond his 46 years. Something about him seemed vaguely familiar to Alex. Mr. Morgan, Foster said with a slight nod. Then his eyes softened as they moved to Emma. Hello there, young lady. That's quite a handsome dog you've got. Emma tensed, pressing closer to Alex. Shadow's ears perked forward, assessing the newcomer. It's okay, sweetheart, Alex assured her. The sheriff is here to help us. Foster seemed to understand Emma's fear. He maintained a respectful distance. I just need to ask your dad some questions. Would it be all right if Dr. Winters stays with you for a few minutes? Emma looked uncertainly at her father. I'll be right outside the door, Alex promised. Shadow will stay with you. The dog settled closer to Emma as if understanding his assignment. In the hallway, Sheriff Foster's professional demeanor remained, but a flicker of recognition crossed his features. You don't remember me, do you? Alex studied the man's face more carefully. There was something familiar in the eyes. Foster? Garrett Foster? Echo Team? The sheriff nodded, a brief smile breaking through his official expression. Been a long time since Kandahar, Lieutenant. Captain now, or was, Alex said automatically. You were with the third group. I'm still carrying the hardware to prove it. Foster patted his left leg, suggesting an old injury. Never expected to run into you in civilian life, especially not like this. The brief moment of camaraderie faded as they returned to the grim present situation. Victoria Hayes Morgan, Foster said, consulting his notes. She's filed a report claiming you assaulted her and kidnapped your daughter. What? Alex's shock quickly transformed to anger. She arrived at the station 40 minutes ago with a bruised wrist, claiming you grabbed her violently before taking Emma without consent. Alex felt cold fury spreading through him. She was torturing my daughter in freezing temperatures. The hospital has documented extensive abuse. Emma has bruises weeks old. Foster nodded solemnly. I suspected as much. That's why I came personally instead of sending deputies to arrest you. You believed her story? I believe in procedure, Morgan, and in getting all the facts before acting. Foster lowered his voice. Between us, something about her didn't sit right. Too composed for someone whose child was supposedly kidnapped. Eyes too calculating. Alex wasn't surprised. Victoria had always been adept at maintaining perfect composure. She's manipulative, smart, and apparently very dangerous, Alex said. And she's been hurting my daughter for months while I was too blind to see it. Foster placed a hand briefly on Alex's shoulder, a gesture of understanding between former soldiers. We'll handle this by the book. Dr. Winters is already documenting everything. The restraining order your lawyer filed will be approved tonight. She won't get near Emma again, Alex stated, the promise carrying the weight of absolute certainty. There's something else you should know, Foster said, checking that they were alone in the hallway. I've been looking into Victoria Hayes Morgan since you two married last year. Alex's eyes narrowed. Why would you investigate my wife? Something about her bothered me when I saw your wedding announcement in the papers. The name, the face, almost familiar but not quite right. Foster pulled out his phone and showed Alex a document. I didn't find anything concrete until recently. Your wife has connections to Maxwell Kane. The name hit Alex like a physical blow. Kane? Maxwell Kane, billionaire real estate developer, known for aggressive hostile takeovers and questionable business practices. 5 years ago, Alex's security firm had uncovered evidence that Kane's company was using industrial espionage against competitors. The resulting investigation had cost Kane millions and nearly destroyed his empire. She met with him 3 times last month at his estate outside Denver, Foster continued. Very discreet meetings, but my department was investigating Kane for an unrelated matter. Her visits were logged by our surveillance team. Alex's mind raced, connecting invisible dots. You think she married me as part of some revenge plot? That's insane. I don't know, Foster admitted, but it's one hell of a coincidence. A nurse rushed toward them from Emma's room. Mr. Morgan, your daughter is asking for you. She seems agitated. Alex hurried back to find Emma sitting upright, eyes wide with panic. Shadow stood alert beside her, hackles raised. She's here, Emma whispered. I saw her. Mom Tori is in the hospital. Sheriff Foster immediately spoke into his radio. This is Foster. I need officers to secure all entrances to Aspen Valley Hospital, 4th floor. Possible violation of a protection order in progress. Through the window of Emma's room, Alex caught a glimpse of a blonde figure in the parking lot below, entering a black Porsche. Victoria. She came to finish what she started, Alex said grimly. Or to take Emma. Foster moved toward the door. I'll have deputies intercept her. She won't be alone, Alex warned, a cold certainty settling in his gut. Not if Kane is involved. Emma clutched at his hand. Don't leave me, Daddy. Please. I won't, Alex promised, settling beside her on the bed. Shadow positioned himself at the foot, facing the door, a living barrier between Emma and any threat. Outside, the blizzard continued to rage, snow accumulating in drifts against the hospital windows. But the real storm, Alex knew, was just beginning. Victoria now knew that her secrets were exposed. Kane, if truly involved, was not a man who would accept failure. They had just declared war against powerful, ruthless enemies. As Emma finally drifted back to sleep, exhausted by fear and trauma, Alex made a silent vow. He had failed to protect his daughter once. He would die before failing her again. Sheriff Foster returned, his expression grim. We missed her, but I've stationed deputies outside this room and at all hospital entrances. Thank you, Alex said quietly. Get some rest if you can, Foster advised. Tomorrow we start building a case. And Morgan, he paused at the door, watch your back. If Kane is involved, this goes deeper than domestic abuse. After Foster left, Alex sat in the dimly lit hospital room, listening to Emma's steady breathing and Shadow's occasional soft whine. His phone buzzed with another call from Victoria. This time he answered but said nothing. Her voice came through, smooth and controlled despite everything. Alex, you're overreacting. Everything I did was for Emma's benefit. Come home so we can discuss this like adults. There's nothing to discuss, he replied coldly. The police have seen the evidence. It's over. A slight pause. When Victoria spoke again, her tone had changed. Harder, colder. All pretense dropped. You have no idea what you've started. Emma needs me. Stay away from my daughter. She's my daughter too now, legally. A chilling confidence colored her words. And you signed certain papers, Alex. Papers that give me considerable control if you become incapacitated. The threat hung in the air between them. Is that what this has been about? My company? My money? Her laugh was soft and somehow more terrifying for its gentleness. Oh, Alex, always thinking so small. This was never just about money. The call ended, leaving Alex staring at the phone in his hand. Outside, the wind howled against the windows, snow piling higher. Inside, his mind raced through every interaction with Victoria over the past 2 years, searching for signs he'd missed, clues to her true nature and intentions. Emma stirred in her sleep, her small face peaceful for the first time in hours. Shadow's amber eyes met Alex's in the dim light, alert and unwavering. We'll protect her, Alex whispered to the dog. Whatever it takes. As dawn approached, painting the snow-covered mountains with pale gold light, Alex Morgan faced the hardest truth of his life. The enemy wasn't in some distant battlefield. The threat hadn't come from a business competitor or international terrorist. The greatest danger to his family had been sleeping beside him for the past year. The wolf had been inside the house all along, and now that wolf was out there in the blizzard, wounded but more dangerous than ever, waiting. Morning arrived at Aspen Valley Hospital with pale winter light filtering through windows encrusted with frost patterns. The blizzard had subsided, leaving behind a transformed landscape buried under 3 feet of pristine snow. Inside room 412, Alexander Morgan sat vigilant beside his sleeping daughter, his body rigid with exhaustion, yet unable to surrender to rest. Shadow lay at the foot of Emma's bed, amber eyes occasionally opening to survey the room before settling back into watchful repose. The dog had not left his position all night, as though understanding the gravity of his protective duty. Emma stirred, small fingers clutching at the hospital blanket. Her face, previously peaceful in sleep, contorted with the beginnings of another nightmare. Before Alex could reach for her, Shadow was already alert, gently nudging her hand with his nose. The child's features relaxed at the contact, nightmare dispelled by the dog's presence. A soft knock at the door announced Sheriff Garrett Foster's arrival. The former soldier entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Dark circles beneath his eyes suggested he too had forgone sleep. Thought you could use this, Foster said, offering one of the cups. Hospital coffee's terrible, but it's hot. Alex accepted with a grateful nod. Any sign of her? Foster shook his head. Victoria's Porsche was found abandoned at a long-term parking facility near the private airstrip. We're checking flight manifests, but with private jets. He let the implication hang in the air. She's running, Alex concluded, voice hollow with fatigue and anger. Or regrouping, Foster countered. He lowered his voice, glancing at Emma to confirm she still slept. I've been digging deeper into Victoria Hayes Morgan. Alex, there's something you need to see. Foster placed a manila folder on the bedside table, opening it to reveal documents and photographs. These arrived from my contact at the FBI an hour ago. The top photograph showed Victoria, or someone remarkably similar, with darker hair and different makeup, standing beside a heavy-set man in an expensive suit. The timestamp indicated it was taken 4 years earlier. Rebecca Hayes, Foster explained, tapping the image, convicted of investment fraud in Boston 5 years ago, served 16 months of a 3-year sentence before being released on good behavior. Alex stared at the photograph, recognition and denial warring within him. That's not possible. I had Victoria thoroughly vetted before our marriage. Corporate standard procedure. Background checks only work if the identity being checked is genuine, Foster replied. Rebecca Hayes supposedly died in a boating accident 3 months after her release. Body never recovered. Convenient. Alex's mind raced through memories of their first meeting at the charity gala in New York. Victoria had approached him, seemingly starstruck by the famous tech entrepreneur. Their courtship had progressed rapidly. Too rapidly, he now realized. The man in the photo, Alex asked, though he already suspected the answer. Maxwell Kane. He visited Hayes multiple times during her incarceration. Foster pulled out another document. Their connection goes back further. Hayes worked at one of Kane's companies before her fraud conviction. Emma shifted in her sleep, drawing both men's attention. They continued in hushed tones. This is insane, Alex whispered. You're suggesting Victoria, Rebecca, marry me as part of some elaborate revenge plot orchestrated by Kane? Because my company exposed his illegal activities years ago? Foster's weathered face remained impassive. You cost Kane nearly $1 billion and destroyed his reputation. People have killed for far less. But why target Emma? The question emerged as barely more than a breath, the incomprehensible cruelty still impossible for Alex to process. Control, Foster answered simply. Break the child. Control the father. Shadow suddenly raised his head, ears alert to something beyond human perception. Seconds later, the door opened to reveal Dr. Winters, accompanied by a specialist in hospital scrubs. Mr. Morgan, Dr. Winters began, this is Dr. Patel from toxicology. There's something concerning in Emma's blood work we need to discuss. The toxicologist stepped forward, his expression grave. We found trace amounts of thallium in your daughter's system. Thallium? Alex repeated, the unfamiliar term settling like ice in his stomach. It's a heavy metal, Dr. Patel explained, highly toxic, often used in rat poison. The levels in Emma's blood are low, not immediately dangerous, but consistent with small, regular exposure over time. The implication landed with devastating clarity. Victoria hadn't just been physically abusing Emma. She had been slowly poisoning her. We've started chelation therapy to remove the toxin from her system, Dr. Winters added. Given the low concentration, she should recover fully. But Mr. Morgan, deliberate thallium poisoning is extraordinarily rare. This wasn't accidental. Foster's hand moved instinctively toward his service weapon. We need to add attempted murder to the charges. Alex rose from his chair, legs unsteady beneath him. I need to be tested too, he said, sudden realization dawning. The headaches, fatigue, stomach problems I've been having for months. Victoria always insisted on preparing my protein shakes herself, said it was her way of supporting me. The room seemed to tilt momentarily as the full horror of the situation crystallized. Victoria, Rebecca, had been systematically poisoning both him and Emma, presumably to gain control of his assets through the provisions in their prenuptial agreement. Dr. Patel nodded. We'll draw blood immediately. Thallium poisoning is often mistaken for other conditions because the symptoms develop gradually. Fatigue, hair loss, peripheral neuropathy, gastrointestinal issues. All of which I've experienced increasingly over the past 6 months, Alex confirmed, cold rage building within him. While medical staff drew blood samples from Alex, Emma awakened. Her blue eyes, so like her mother's before the accident, widened with momentary fear until they found her father. You're still here, she whispered, relief softening her features. Alex moved to her side, brushing hair from her forehead. I promised I wouldn't leave, remember? Emma nodded, then her gaze shifted to Foster, uncertainty returning. This is Sheriff Foster, Alex explained gently. He's an old friend from when I was a soldier. He's helping us. Emma studied the sheriff with the careful assessment of a child who had learned to be wary of adults. Shadow's apparent acceptance of Foster seemed to reassure her. Are the bad dreams gone? Alex asked, desperate to see his daughter smile again. Emma shook her head slowly. They come back when I close my eyes. Mom Tori standing over me. Her voice trailed off, eyes filling with tears. She can't hurt you anymore, Alex promised, though the words felt hollow given what they had just learned about the thallium poisoning. Dr. Winters approached with a tablet. Emma, we need to ask you some questions about medicine you might have taken. Did your stepmother ever give you special vitamins or drinks? Emma's small fingers tightened around Alex's hand. The special tea, she whispered. She made me drink it every night before bed, said it would help my leg grow stronger. The doctor exchanged glances with Foster. Did the tea taste unusual? Bitter, perhaps? Emma nodded. Really bitter. She put lots of honey to hide it. What about your father? Did she make special drinks for him too? The green smoothies, Emma answered immediately. Every morning. She wouldn't let me help make them. Said they had special ingredients just for Daddy. Alex felt physically ill as the pieces aligned with terrible precision. His protein smoothies, the ones Victoria had insisted were filled with superfoods to combat his work stress, had been delivery vehicles for poison. Foster stepped into the hallway to make a call while Dr. Winters continued gently questioning Emma. Alex's blood test results would take hours, but the circumstantial evidence was already overwhelming. When Foster returned, his expression was grim. Morgan, I need a moment outside. In the corridor, the sheriff kept his voice low. My deputies just finished a preliminary search of your house with the emergency warrant. They found a locked cabinet in Victoria's private bathroom containing thallium sulfate, along with detailed notes on dosages. There's no doubt this was premeditated. Alex leaned against the wall, struggling to process the calculated malice required to slowly poison a child and her father over months. There's more, Foster continued. They found documents referencing something called Project Morgan hidden in her desk. Most were encrypted, but there were emails between Victoria and Maxwell Kane discussing progress reports and timelines. I need to see everything, Alex said, pushing himself upright with renewed determination. I need to understand what they're planning. Deputies are securing everything as evidence, but technically, it's your house. You have every right to examine your own property. Alex glanced back through the doorway at Emma, now talking quietly with Dr. Winters. I can't leave her. Foster considered this problem. The hospital security is good, and I've stationed deputies. Emma's safe here for a few hours. Whatever Victoria and Kane are planning, we need to understand it to stop it. The decision tore at Alex's core. He had promised not to leave Emma, yet he needed to uncover the full scope of the threat against them. Shadow stays with her, he finally decided. That dog is worth more than any security guard. Foster nodded in agreement. 2 hours maximum. We go to your house, find what we can, and return before she knows you're gone. Alex approached Emma's bed, kneeling to eye level with his daughter. Sweetheart, I need to get some things from home. Sheriff Foster is coming with me. Fear immediately flooded Emma's expression. No, Daddy, please don't go. You promised. Shadow will stay right here, Alex assured her, placing her small hand on the dog's head. He won't let anyone near you, and Dr. Winters will be checking on you every 15 minutes. Emma's bottom lip trembled. What if Mom Tori comes back? She can't get past hospital security, the deputies outside your door, or Shadow, Alex explained. And I'll be back before you know it. I promise. The child considered this, her intelligence evident in her thoughtful expression. Finally, she whispered to Shadow, You have to protect me until Daddy comes back. Okay? The German shepherd responded with a soft whine, settling his head on the bed beside her hand, amber eyes fixed on the door. 2 hours, Alex repeated, kissing Emma's forehead. I'll be counting the minutes. The drive to the Morgan estate was silent, both men absorbed in their thoughts as they navigated roads partially cleared of snow. Aspen sparkled in winter brilliance around them, the wealthy community oblivious to the darkness Alex had uncovered at the heart of his perfect life. Police tape marked the entrance to his home, a deputy nodding recognition as Foster's vehicle approached. Inside, the mansion felt cavernous and hostile, no longer the sanctuary Alex had intended when purchasing it. "Your security system records to a cloud server, correct?" Foster asked, surveying the foyer with professional assessment. Alex nodded, already moving toward his home office. "Everything feeds to Morgan's cybersecurity servers, motion detection, access logs, temperature changes in each room. We'll need that footage. It could show patterns of behavior, evidence of abuse when you weren't home." In his office, Alex accessed the security system through a specialized terminal. "I can pull everything from the past 3 months," he said, fingers moving rapidly across the keyboard. Foster examined the room while Alex worked, noting the framed photographs on the walls. Alex receiving industry awards, standing with government officials, attending charity events. Victoria appeared in many of them, always perfectly groomed, always smiling that camera-ready smile. "She played her role well," Foster observed. "She was exceptional," Alex admitted bitterly. "Charming, supportive, seemingly perfect with Emma, at least when I was watching." The security footage began transferring to a secure drive. Alex turned his attention to Victoria's private study across the hall, a room she had insisted on having for her charity work and personal correspondence. The space was immaculate, decorated in minimalist white and chrome. A MacBook sat centered on the glass desk. Alex opened it, unsurprised to find it password protected. "Can you bypass that?" Foster asked. Alex almost smiled. "I run a cybersecurity firm, Garrett." His fingers moved across the keyboard in practice patterns, executing commands that few outside his industry would recognize. The laptop's security collapsed within minutes. She was careful, Alex noted, scanning through folders. "Most of these files are mundane. Charity events, household accounts, social calendars. People like this compartmentalize," Foster said. "Try looking for hidden directories or encrypted storage." Alex navigated deeper into the system, searching for anomalies. "Here," he eventually said, pointing to a seemingly empty folder labeled Interior Design. "This has unusual permission settings." Within the folder lay another, this one encrypted with sophisticated protocols. Alex's expression darkened as he recognized the security architecture. "This is Morgan's cybersecurity proprietary technology," he said. "Our military-grade encryption. She shouldn't have access to this. Can you crack it?" "I designed it," Alex replied, already implementing override protocols only he knew existed. The folder opened to reveal dozens of documents labeled Project Morgan, along with financial spreadsheets, legal documents, and a detailed timeline. Alex opened the most recent file, dated just 3 days earlier. "Subject continues to exhibit increasing symptoms of thallium toxicity," he read aloud, his voice growing harder with each word. "Estimated 4 to 6 weeks before hospitalization becomes necessary. Prenuptial provisions activated upon medical incapacitation." Foster looked over his shoulder. She was documenting the poisoning, building a record to ensure she didn't administer a fatal dose too quickly. Alex opened another document, this one containing legal language he recognized from his prenuptial agreement. Specific clauses were highlighted, provisions granting Victoria control of his assets and company in the event of his extended incapacitation. "I insisted on these provisions to protect Emma if something happened to me," Alex explained, disgust evident in his voice. "Victoria suggested the wording, said it would ensure smooth transition of authority if I was ever unable to manage my affairs. She created her own loophole," Foster observed grimly. "Poison you slowly, activate the provisions when you're hospitalized, then complete the job once she has control." Another file contained detailed information about Emma, medical records, school reports, psychological assessments, all annotated with Victoria's observations. "Subject displays stubborn resistance to correction," one note read. "Physical discipline produces temporary compliance but insufficient long-term behavioral modification. Recommend increased isolation and psychological pressure." Alex's hand trembled as he scrolled through the clinical documentation of his daughter's abuse. She was experimenting on Emma, he whispered, treating her like a test subject. What's this? Foster pointed to a folder labeled Kane Correspondence. Inside were emails between Victoria, using the alias Rebecca, and Maxwell Kane, dating back 3 years. The earliest messages predated Alex's first meeting with Victoria. Target identified, one read. Morgan's security weaknesses analyzed. Primary vulnerability is daughter Emma. 5. Approach through charity connection recommended. The methodical planning of Victoria's introduction into their lives was laid bare in dozens of exchanges. She had researched Alex's habits, preferences, and psychological profile to craft herself into his perfect match. Kane had provided financial backing and strategic guidance for the long-term operation. They've been planning this for years, Alex said, voice hollow with shock. This is about more than revenge, Foster noted, pointing to financial documents. Kane's company is nearly bankrupt. Your security firm is worth what? $2 billion? With controlling interest, he could rebuild his empire. Alex opened a final document, a detailed timeline for the coming month. His blood turned to ice as he read the entry for 3 days hence. AM medical emergency, critical. EM transfer to psychiatric facility, behavioral issues. Property transfer complete. They were going to institutionalize Emma, he realized, horror rising in his throat. Get her declared mentally unstable to maintain control over her inheritance. Foster's expression hardened. This is enough evidence for multiple federal charges. Conspiracy, attempted murder, fraud, identity theft. We need to call the FBI. As Alex reached for his phone, a notification from the security system flashed on the screen. Motion detected at the rear entrance. He quickly pulled up the camera feed. Victoria's Porsche had returned, parking behind the garage where it wouldn't be visible from the road. The blonde figure emerging from the vehicle moved with purpose toward the house. She's back, Alex whispered, instinctively reaching for a weapon he no longer carried. Foster drew his service pistol. We need to leave. Now. My backup won't arrive for at least 15 minutes. Wait, Alex held up his hand, attention caught by Victoria's behavior. She wasn't entering the house, but instead moving toward the old woodshed at the property's edge, a structure Alex had planned to demolish before Emma had insisted on keeping it as a playhouse. She's retrieving something, he observed, switching camera angles to follow her movement. Victoria unlocked the shed with a key Alex hadn't known existed. Inside, she pulled up a section of floorboard, withdrawing a metal box. When she opened it, the camera angle prevented clear visibility of the contents, but her body language suggested relief. We need that box, Alex decided. Whatever's in there, she came back for it specifically, despite the risk. Foster assessed the situation with tactical precision. She's alone as far as we can tell. My cruiser is parked out front, where she can't see it. We have the element of surprise. I know that shed better than she does, Alex added. There's only one entrance. She's cornered herself. They moved silently through the house, years of military training guiding their movements. At the rear door, Foster positioned himself strategically, service weapon ready. Police procedure is to announce myself, he whispered. But this is your call, Morgan. Official or unofficial approach. Alex considered the evidence they had already gathered, the documented poisoning, the conspiracy with Kane, the planned institutionalization of Emma. Victoria deserved no warning, no chance to fabricate explanations. Official, he decided nevertheless, everything by the book. I want these charges to stick permanently. Foster nodded approval. Stay behind me. They moved across the snow-covered yard, approaching the shed from different angles. Victoria remained inside, apparently examining documents from the metal box. Rebecca Hayes, Foster called out, using her real name as he took position beside the door. This is Sheriff Garrett Foster. You're under arrest for attempted murder, child abuse, and conspiracy. Come out with your hands visible. Inside the shed, Victoria froze. Through the window, Alex could see her calculating expression. The mask of perfection finally abandoned. Sheriff, she replied, her voice smooth despite the situation. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. Alexander has been experiencing paranoid delusions. His doctors are quite concerned. We found the thallium, Rebecca, Foster replied evenly, and we've read the Project Morgan files. It's over. Victoria's composure faltered momentarily before her features hardened into something unrecognizable to Alex, a cold determination that had perhaps been her true face all along. "I'm coming out," she announced. "I'm unarmed. The documents I'm holding explain everything." Foster maintained his position. Hands first, documents on the ground. The shed door opened slowly. Victoria emerged with exaggerated care, hands raised to shoulder height. The metal box remained inside, its contents partially visible. Passports, cash, memory drives. "Alexander," she said, ignoring Foster to focus on Alex. "This isn't what it seems. Maxwell Kane has been blackmailing me. I was trying to protect you and Emma." "By poisoning us?" Alex kept his voice level despite the rage coursing through him. "Those supplements were prescribed by a specialist," she insisted, taking a small step forward. "For Emma's bone density. For your stress levels." "Melissa, stay where you are," Foster commanded, weapon trained steadily on her center mass. Victoria ignored him, attention fixed on Alex. "I love Emma," she said, voice breaking with what might have been genuine emotion if Alex hadn't seen the clinical notes documenting her abuse. "Everything I did was to make her stronger. The world is cruel to those who show weakness." "On your knees," Foster ordered, "hands behind your head. Now." For a moment it seemed Victoria would comply. She began to lower herself, then suddenly lunged toward Alex with unexpected speed. Something flashed in her hand, a small syringe produced from her sleeve. Foster fired a warning shot into the air. "Freeze!" Victoria hesitated, mere feet from Alex, the syringe poised to strike. Their eyes met, and Alex saw nothing of the woman he thought he had married. This stranger's gaze held only cold calculation. "You have no idea what you've interrupted," she hissed. "Kane won't stop. The project isn't just about you or your company anymore." "Drop the syringe," Foster repeated, closing the distance between them. Final warning. Victoria's expression shifted to resignation. She lowered the syringe slowly, then dropped it in the snow. Foster moved forward to secure her, handcuffs ready. As he approached, Victoria's phone rang in her pocket. She smiled thinly at Alex. "You might want to answer that. It could be about Emma." Cold fear lanced through Alex's chest. He nodded to Foster, who cautiously retrieved the phone from Victoria's coat. The caller ID displayed Maxwell Kane. Foster answered on speaker. "This is Sheriff Garrett Foster of the Aspen Police Department. Maxwell Kane, you're implicated in a conspiracy to commit murder." A moment of silence preceded Kane's response. When it came, his voice was eerily calm. "Is Victoria with you?" "Rebecca Hayes is in custody," Foster confirmed. "We have all the Project Morgan files." Kane chuckled, the sound sending ice through Alex's veins. "Unfortunate, but contingencies exist for a reason." "Whatever you're planning stops now," Alex interjected. "It's over, Kane." "Alexander Morgan," Kane acknowledged. "Always the strategist. But you've miscalculated this time. While you've been chasing Victoria, my associate at the hospital has been quite busy." The world seemed to stop around Alex. "What are you talking about?" "Aspen Valley Hospital, room 412, Kane replied, satisfaction evident in his tone. "I believe your daughter is already being moved to a more appropriate facility, one where I have considerable influence." Victoria smiled coldly. "You should have stayed with her, Alexander. Shadow can't stop everyone." Alex was already running toward Foster's cruiser, primal fear propelling him faster than he had moved in years. Foster shouted instructions into his radio, calling for immediate response at the hospital while cuffing Victoria to a sturdy pipe inside the shed. "Go," Foster yelled to Alex. "I'll secure her and follow." The cruiser's engine roared to life as Alex reversed down the driveway, snow spraying from beneath spinning tires. He activated the emergency lights and siren, heedless of proper procedure. Kane's voice echoed in his mind. "While you've been chasing Victoria, my associate at the hospital has been quite busy." The hospital was 15 minutes away under optimal conditions. Today's partially cleared roads might extend that to 20. Alex pressed the accelerator further, the speedometer climbing past 80 despite the treacherous conditions. His phone rang, Dr. Winter's number. "Morgan," he answered, heart pounding against his ribs. "Mr. Morgan," the doctor's voice was tight with urgency. A man claiming to be Emma's uncle arrived with transfer papers. When our staff questioned him, he produced what appeared to be a court order. We're stalling, but he's becoming aggressive. Security's involved. Do not let Emma leave that hospital, Alex commanded. Those papers are forgeries. Kane is trying to kidnap my daughter. Kane? The doctor sounded confused. The man gave his name as James Morgan. He said you were incapacitated and had designated him as Emma's guardian. I have no brother, Alex clarified, swerving around a snowplow. The man is working for Maxwell Kane. He's dangerous. I've locked down the pediatric ward, Dr. Winters assured him. But Mr. Morgan, you should know Emma's extremely distressed. Shadow became agitated when the man approached. He's currently preventing anyone from entering the room. Alex felt a surge of gratitude for the loyal animal. Tell Emma I'm 5 minutes away. And doctor, call the police. Now. The connection ended as Alex approached the hospital, tires skidding slightly as he took the entrance too fast. He abandoned the cruiser in the emergency lane, sprinting through the automatic doors into the lobby. The elevator would be too slow. Alex took the stairs 3 at a time, reaching the 4th floor breathless, but propelled by desperate urgency. The pediatric ward entrance was secured with keycard access, but a frightened nurse recognized him and buzzed him through. Down the corridor, raised voices echoed from the vicinity of Emma's room. A security guard lay slumped against the wall, blood trickling from a head wound. 2 nurses stood protectively outside room 412, attempting to reason with a broad-shouldered man in an expensive suit. Sir, without proper documentation verified by our legal department, we cannot release the patient, one nurse was saying, her voice admirably steady despite her evident fear. This court order is all the documentation required, the man responded, his tone cultured but laced with menace. He held an official-looking document in one hand. The other hand was concealed within his jacket. That document is forged, Alex announced, advancing down the hallway with cold purpose. The man turned, revealing a face Alex recognized from security briefings years earlier. Dominic Mercer, Maxwell Kane's personal fixer and rumored enforcer. Mercer's hand emerged from his jacket, now holding a pistol equipped with a silencer. Mr. Morgan, Mercer acknowledged with professional detachment. Mr. Kane suggested you might complicate matters. Step aside, please. The child comes with me. From inside the room came Emma's frightened voice. Daddy, Daddy, is that you? I'm here, Emma, Alex called, never taking his eyes off Mercer. Everything's going to be all right. Mercer's expression remained impassive. Mr. Kane has invested considerably in this project. The girl is necessary leverage until certain transactions are completed. No harm will come to her if you cooperate. You're not taking my daughter, Alex stated, each word carved from ice. Hospital security would be responding soon, along with police. Mercer would know his window of opportunity was closing rapidly. The knowledge made him more dangerous, not less. This can proceed in one of 2 ways, Mercer continued, gesturing slightly with the weapon. Either you instruct your daughter to come out voluntarily, or I sedate her after dealing with you. The choice is yours. Behind Mercer, Emma's door opened a few inches. Shadow's black muzzle appeared in the gap, teeth bared in silent warning. The dog had recognized the threat even through the closed door. Alex made a subtle hand gesture, a command Shadow had been trained to recognize years ago during their time in combat zones. The dog disappeared from the doorway. Emma stays with me, Alex said, taking a deliberate step forward. Kane is lost. Victoria is in custody. The Project Morgan files are in police possession. It's finished. Uncertainty flickered briefly across Mercer's features. Step back, Mr. Morgan. Final warning. The corridor had emptied of staff, the nurses retreating to protect other patients. Only Alex, Mercer, and the unconscious security guard remained visible. You should know something about my dog, Alex said conversationally, taking another step forward. In Afghanistan, Shadow was trained for a very specific tactical purpose. Mercer's eyes narrowed. Stay where you are. He can detect the precise moment a human's attention is diverted, Alex continued, edging closer, and he's been conditioned to exploit that moment. As if on cue, the fire alarm erupted throughout the building. its piercing wail momentarily distracting Mercer. In that split second, Emma's door burst open. Shadow launched through the air in a blur of black and tan fur. 80 pounds of muscle and trained aggression aimed directly at Mercer's gun arm. The weapon discharged once, the silencer reducing the report to a dull thud as the bullet embedded in the ceiling. Shadow's jaws clamped around Mercer's wrist with bone-crushing pressure. Man and dog crashed to the floor, Shadow maintaining his grip despite Mercer's desperate struggle. Alex closed the remaining distance in 3 strides, delivering a precisely targeted strike to Mercer's temple. The enforcer went limp immediately, consciousness extinguished. "Shadow, hold!" Alex commanded unnecessarily. The dog maintained his position, growling deep in his throat. Emma appeared in the doorway, pale but unharmed. "Daddy!" she cried, launching herself toward him. Alex gathered her into his arms, the solid reality of her small body against his chest producing a wave of relief so profound it momentarily weakened his knees. "I knew you'd come back," Emma whispered, arms locked around his neck. "Always," he promised, carrying her away from the unconscious Mercer. "I will always come back for you." Sheriff Foster arrived with 4 deputies moments later, securing Mercer and clearing the floor. Dr. Winters confirmed Emma was physically unharmed despite the traumatic experience. "Shadow kept me safe," Emma explained proudly as they relocated to a secure room deeper within the hospital. "He knew the bad man was coming before anyone else. He stood at the door and wouldn't let anyone in." The dog received well-deserved praise, along with strips of turkey from Emma's untouched lunch tray. He accepted both with dignified appreciation, resuming his guard position at the foot of Emma's new bed. Foster joined them an hour later, his expression grim but satisfied. "Victoria Rebecca is in federal custody. Kane was arrested attempting to board his private jet in Denver. Mercer is conscious and already negotiating for a plea deal." "The Project Morgan files?" Alex inquired. "Secured as evidence, the FBI's cybercrime unit is processing everything." Foster sat heavily in a visitor's chair. "They found something interesting in Victoria's metal box from the shed. Apparently, Kane's true objective wasn't just your company." "What was he after?" Foster slid a document across the bedside table. "Your company recently developed quantum encryption protocols for the Department of Defense, correct?" Alex's blood chilled as the final piece aligned. "Project Sentinel, top secret classification, the backbone of the next generation of national security communications. According to Victoria's notes, Kane sold access to your systems to foreign entities," Foster explained quietly. "He promised them the complete Sentinel encryption architecture once he controlled your company." The magnitude of the betrayal expanded exponentially. Kane hadn't just targeted Alex's family and fortune. He had attempted to compromise national security for profit. "How did they know about Sentinel?" Alex wondered aloud. "Only 5 people in my company have clearance for that information." "Victoria documented her methods," Foster replied. "Apparently you talk in your sleep when drugged with certain compounds." Emmeline had drifted off, exhaustion finally claiming her. Shadow maintained his vigilant position, amber eyes occasionally sweeping the room before settling back on the door. "What happens now?" Alex asked, gently stroking Emma's hair. "The federal charges will keep Kane and Victoria in prison for decades," Foster assured him. "The evidence is overwhelming. Multiple conspiracy charges, attempted murder, child abuse, corporate espionage, and now treason. They're finished." Alex nodded, the knowledge providing cold comfort against the trauma his daughter had endured. "I should never have left her," he whispered, guilt weighing heavily on his shoulders. "You did what was necessary," Foster countered. "Without those files, Kane might have escaped prosecution. Victoria might have claimed temporary insanity. You uncovered the full conspiracy." "At what cost?" Alex gestured to Emma's sleeping form. "What she experienced? That doesn't just disappear." "No," Foster agreed soberly. "It doesn't. But she has you, and that do." He smiled faintly at Shadow. "She'll heal, Morgan. Children are remarkably resilient." Outside the hospital windows, afternoon sunlight glinted off vast snowdrifts, creating diamond-like sparkles across the landscape. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world transformed but ultimately renewed. Emma stirred slightly in her sleep, small fingers clutching at the blanket. Alex gently covered her hand with his own, marveling at its perfect, miniature form. In sleep, her features relaxed into something approaching peace, proof that recovery was possible, given time and love. We'll need a fresh start, Alex decided quietly. Somewhere new, somewhere without these memories. Foster nodded understanding. My sister has a ranch outside of Bozeman, 300 acres, mountains, clean air. She rents cabins sometimes. Montana, Alex considered, the image forming in his mind. Open spaces, distance from corporate pressures, room for Emma to heal and for Shadow to run. That could work. Take whatever time you need, Foster advised, rising to leave. The investigation will proceed without requiring your constant presence. Alex glanced at his sleeping daughter. Time is exactly what we need now. As Foster departed, Emma's eyes fluttered open briefly. Are the bad people gone, Daddy? She murmured, hovering between sleep and wakefulness. They're gone, Alex assured her, squeezing her hand gently, and they can never hurt you again. Emma nodded sleepily. Can we go home soon? Not to the old house, Alex replied carefully. I thought maybe we could find a new home, somewhere with lots of space for Shadow to run, mountains for us to climb when you're ready. The child considered this through the haze of approaching sleep. Will you be there all the time? Not just sometimes? All the time, Alex promised, the decision crystallizing with absolute clarity. My company can manage without me for a while. You and Shadow are what matter now. Contentment softened Emma's features as sleep reclaimed her. Shadow shifted position slightly, settling his head on his paws while maintaining his protective vigil. Outside, the sun began its descent toward the western mountains, painting the snow-covered landscape in hues of gold and amber. The world continued its inevitable cycle, storm yielding to calm, darkness giving way to light. Alex Morgan watched over his daughter, mentally cataloging the changes necessary for their new beginning. The corporate empire could wait. The billions could wait. For the first time in years, his priorities aligned with absolute clarity. The father he should have been, the father Emma deserved, was finally fully present. Tomorrow would bring police statements, medical evaluations, and the beginning of legal proceedings against those who had orchestrated their suffering. The road ahead would not be easy. Emma's recovery would require patience, professional help, and unconditional love. But tonight, in this moment of relative peace, Alex allowed himself to believe in possibility. His daughter was safe. The immediate threat had been neutralized, and he had been granted something few ever receive after catastrophic failure, a second chance. Shadow's eyes met his in the dimming light, animal intuition somehow conveying understanding. They had both been trained as guardians. Both had temporarily failed in that sacred duty. Both would ensure such failure never occurred again. We're going to be okay, Alex whispered. The promise intended for Emma, for Shadow, and perhaps most importantly, for himself. Outside the window, the first stars appeared in the darkening sky above Aspen, distant points of light piercing the gathering darkness, silent witnesses to the countless human stories unfolding beneath their eternal watch. Among those stories, a father, a daughter, and their faithful guardian, beginning the long journey from trauma toward healing, from darkness toward light. 6 weeks after the events at Aspen Valley Hospital, spring began its tentative emergence across the Colorado mountains. Patches of vibrant green appeared through melting snow, like islands in a white sea. The brutal winter that had nearly claimed 2 innocent lives gradually surrendered to warmer days, much as trauma slowly yields to healing when given proper time and care. In a private room on the hospital's rehabilitation floor, Emma Morgan sat on the edge of her bed, concentration etched across her small features as a physical therapist carefully adjusted her new prosthetic leg. Morning light filtered through the window, casting a hopeful glow across the medical equipment that had become so familiar over these long weeks of recovery. This one feels different, Emma observed, fingers tracing the sleek carbon fiber surface. Her touch was hesitant but curious, exploring the contours of this new extension of herself. It's the best pediatric prosthetic available, Alexander Morgan explained from his position nearby. He hadn't left her side for more than minutes at a time since the day of Mercer's attempted abduction. Dark circles beneath his eyes testified to nights spent in the uncomfortable hospital chair, vigilant even in sleep. Designed for active kids who want to run and climb. Emma looked up, cautious hope illuminating her blue eyes. Like mountains? Especially mountains, Alex confirmed with a gentle smile that reached his eyes for the first time in weeks. The physical therapist, a kind-faced woman named Deanna, helped Emma stand. Ready to try a few steps? Shadow watched attentively from his designated corner, ears forward, eyes tracking Emma's every movement. The German Shepherd had become such a fixture in the rehabilitation unit that staff had created an official therapy dog vest for him, complete with hospital credentials. Several nurses had taken to keeping treats in their pockets specifically for him, though Shadow would never accept one while on duty guarding Emma. Emma gripped the parallel bars, determination replacing fear as she took her first step with the new prosthetic. Then another. Her movements were hesitant but steadier than they had been with the previous model, the one Victoria had deliberately kept poorly adjusted to maintain Emma's dependency. A small furrow of concentration formed between her eyebrows, so like her mother's that it momentarily stole Alex's breath. "That's it," Deanna encouraged. "Feel how the knee responds differently?" Emma nodded, concentration evident as she processed the new sensations. By the time she reached the end of the bars, a smile had replaced the frown of concentration. "It doesn't hurt," she declared with wonder, looking down at where flesh met technology. "Not anywhere." Alex swallowed against the tightness in his throat. Emma had endured the previous prosthetic's discomfort without complaint, believing Victoria's assertion that pain was necessary for strength. Each revelation of her silent suffering cut him deeply, adding layers to the guilt he carried despite the therapist's insistence that he couldn't have known. "Pain is never supposed to be part of it, sweetheart," he assured her. "Not anymore." Dr. Sarah Mitchell entered, carrying Emma's medical chart. The neurologist had joined Emma's care team after the thallium poisoning was discovered, working alongside Dr. Winters, Anthony, the pediatrician who had first treated Emma that snowy night. Dr. Mitchell's calm efficiency and gentle manner had quickly earned both Emma's trust and Alex's respect. "Looking good, Miss Emma," she observed warmly. "Those balance tests are improving every day." While Emma continued practicing with Deanna, Dr. Mitchell drew Alex aside. The corridor outside the therapy room was quiet at this early hour, their conversation protected by the privacy of empty space. "The latest blood work shows no detectable thallium levels," she reported quietly. "Physically, she's recovering exceptionally well. The chelation therapy was completely successful." "And psychologically?" Alex asked, his voice equally low. This had become their routine, these hallway consultations where they spoke honestly about Emma's progress while she was occupied with therapy. Mitchell's expression grew more measured. "Dr. Reynolds reports progress in their sessions, but trauma like this doesn't vanish overnight. Emma still has nightmares, still struggles with trusting new adults. The psychological wounds will take longer to heal than the physical ones." "But she's talking about it now," Alex noted, "not hiding her feelings like before." "That's significant progress," the doctor confirmed. "Your decision to participate in the family therapy sessions is making a tremendous difference. Children heal faster when they feel secure in their attachments." Through the observation window, they watched Emma complete another lap between the parallel bars, Shadow pacing alongside her like a protective shadow. "The Montana property is ready," Alex mentioned. "My team finished the security installation yesterday. Dr. Reynolds has recommended a colleague near Bozeman who specializes in childhood trauma. We've already had 2 video sessions to establish rapport." "Timing-wise, I believe Emma is physically ready for discharge," Dr. Mitchell replied. "A change of environment could be beneficial, especially somewhere with positive associations rather than traumatic ones." "We've been talking about mountains and forests, horses and wildlife," Alex explained. "She seems excited by the possibilities." "It's the first time I've seen her genuinely look forward to something since—" He didn't need to finish. Dr. Mitchell nodded understanding. "Just remember to maintain as much routine as possible during the transition," she advised. "Children who've experienced trauma need predictability to feel safe. Structure helps rebuild their sense of security." Her therapy appointments, medication schedule, and physical exercises are already programmed into both our calendars, Alex assured her. "And Shadow's schedule too, of course." As if hearing his name, the German Shepherd glanced in their direction before returning his attention to Emma, who had completed her exercises and was now sitting while Deanna made final adjustments to the prosthetic. "Daddy, look!" Emma called, extending her leg to display the custom design now visible on the prosthetic's outer shell. A mountain landscape in blues and greens, complete with tiny pine trees and a soaring eagle. "It's beautiful," Alex responded, moving to her side. "Just like Montana will be. When can we go?" The eagerness in Emma's voice confirmed they were making the right decision. "3 more days," he promised. "Just enough time for final checkups and packing." Sheriff Garrett Foster appeared in the doorway, his expression revealing good news before he spoke. He had become a regular visitor during Emma's recovery, his steady presence and connection to Alex's military past, providing an additional layer of security that helped Emma feel protected. "The prosecutor called," he announced once Emma was distracted with Shadow. "Maxwell Kane accepted a plea deal this morning. 40 years, no possibility of parole for 25. Relief washed through Alex, so Emma won't need to testify. "No court appearances necessary," Foster confirmed. The evidence was overwhelming, particularly after the FBI cybercrime unit decrypted the remaining Project Morgan files. And Victoria? Alex still couldn't bring himself to use her real name. The woman he'd thought he loved remained Victoria in his mind, Rebecca Hayes being a stranger who had worn his wife's face as a mask. Rebecca Hayes received 30 years for her role. The federal charges of espionage and treason added significant weight to her sentence. Foster's weathered face displayed satisfaction. Mercer provided detailed testimony against both of them in exchange for a reduced sentence. He'll still serve 15 years minimum. Alex exhaled slowly, the tension he'd carried for weeks easing slightly. It's finally over. "The legal portion, yes," Foster agreed. "The rest takes time." They both glanced toward Emma, who was showing Shadow her newly decorated prosthetic. The dog sat attentively, head tilted as if admiring the artwork, his posture relaxed but alert, a guardian allowing a moment of childhood joy while remaining vigilant. "Montana is a good choice," Foster commented. "My sister reports the caretaker's cabin is fully stocked and ready. The main house renovations will be completed within the month." "I can't thank you enough for arranging this," Alex said quietly, gratitude evident in his voice. Foster waved away the thanks. "What are old war buddies for? Besides, Laura's thrilled to have neighbors on that massive property. She's been alone out there too long. She's already planning trail rides for Emma once she's ready." The thought of Emma on horseback, something she had mentioned wanting to try, brought a genuine smile to Alex's face. Such normal childhood experiences had been denied her during Victoria's calculated campaign of isolation and control. "We leave on Saturday," Alex confirmed. "The medical transport is arranged for Emma and Shadow. I'll drive up with the essential belongings." "I'll escort the transport personally," Foster offered. "Until Kane's remaining associates are all accounted for, I'd feel better providing additional security." Alex nodded gratitude, knowing the sheriff was voluntarily extending his protection beyond official requirements. The brotherhood formed in combat zones continued to manifest in civilian life when needed most. 3 days later, Emma Morgan looked out the window as the medical transport vehicle wound its way through the Montana landscape. Shadow lay beside her on the specially arranged medical bed, his presence a constant comfort during the journey. Sheriff Foster sat in the front passenger seat, occasionally checking on them through the partition. Emma pressed her palm against the cool glass, eyes wide with wonder as they climbed higher into the mountains. The landscape here was different from Colorado, wilder somehow, more expansive, with vast stretches of untouched wilderness extending to distant horizons. "The mountains are different here," Emma observed, watching snow-capped peaks rise majestically against the clear blue sky. "Bigger." "Montana has some of the most beautiful mountains in America," Foster replied, turning slightly in his seat. "Just wait until you see the valley where you'll be living." Emma's hand absently stroked Shadow's fur, a self-soothing gesture she had developed during recovery. The rhythmic motion calmed them both, creating a feedback loop of comfort between child and animal. "Will Daddy be there when we arrive?" she asked, the familiar anxiety creeping into her voice despite weeks of therapy and reassurance. "He left yesterday to make sure everything was ready for you," Foster assured her. "He's waiting at the cabin right now." The medical transport turned onto a private road marked only by carved wooden posts bearing the name Whispering Pines Ranch. For nearly 2 miles, they followed a well-maintained gravel drive that wound through pine forests and open meadows. The scent of wildflowers and fresh mountain air filtered through the vehicle's ventilation system, replacing the antiseptic smell that had surrounded them for so long. As they crested a small rise, the valley spread before them in breathtaking panorama. Emma gasped, pressing closer to the window. 1,000 acres of pristine Montana wilderness lay embraced by mountain ranges on three sides, their peaks still crowned with winter snow despite the spring warming in the valley below. A crystal-clear river cut through verdant meadows dotted with spring wildflowers, purple lupine, yellow arrowleaf balsam root, and wild blue flax creating a natural tapestry across the landscape. In the distance, a cluster of wooden buildings nestled against the tree line, smoke curling from a stone chimney. "Is that our new home?" Emma whispered, eyes wide with wonder. "The smaller cabin near the trees," Foster confirmed. "The main ranch house belongs to my sister Laura. She lives there with her husband Tom." As they approached, Alex emerged from the cabin's wide porch, tension visibly leaving his shoulders at the sight of the transport. By the time the vehicle stopped, he was already opening the rear doors. "Welcome home, sweetheart," he said, helping Emma carefully down from the vehicle. Shadow jumped down after her, immediately circling the area in a perimeter check, nose to the ground as he cataloged new scents. His training required him to assess any new environment before allowing Emma to settle, mapping escape routes and potential threats by instinct. Emma stood motionless, taking in her surroundings with the cautious assessment of a child who had learned to be wary of change. The cabin before her was constructed of honey-colored logs with large windows and a wraparound porch. Behind it, pine forests climbed the mountainside. Before it, meadows rolled toward the distant river. "It's so quiet," she observed, the absence of hospital machinery, staff voices, and city sounds creating a stillness she had rarely experienced. "That's because we're miles from the nearest neighbor, except for Laura and Tom," Alex explained, kneeling to her level. "Do you want to see inside?" Emma nodded, reaching for his hand, a gesture that had become more frequent during her recovery. Together, they climbed the porch steps, Shadow returning from his inspection to join them. The cabin's interior revealed a masterful blend of rustic charm and modern comfort. The great room featured a soaring stone fireplace, where a welcoming fire crackled against the spring mountain chill. Large windows captured spectacular mountain views from every angle. The furniture combined Western durability with thoughtful ergonomics, including specially selected pieces to accommodate Emma during her ongoing recovery. "Your room is this way." Alex guided her down a short hallway to a space that reflected careful preparation. Emma stopped in the doorway, eyes widening. The room had been decorated in her favorite colors of blue and green, with a handcrafted wooden bed positioned to offer views of the mountains through large windows. A bookshelf held volumes she had expressed interest in during hospital days. A child-sized desk sat in one corner, with art supplies neatly arranged. Above the bed hung a dream catcher, its intricate web glittering with tiny crystals that caught the light. "Is this really all for me?" she asked with characteristic caution, still unaccustomed to receiving genuine care without hidden agenda. "All yours," Alex confirmed. "And look." He opened a door to reveal a smaller adjoining room with a comfortable dog bed positioned near a window. "Shadow's room connects to yours." The German Shepherd entered the space, circled the bed twice, then settled onto it with a contented sigh that drew the first genuine laugh from Emma in weeks. "He approves," she declared, her small shoulders relaxing slightly. "There's one more thing," Alex said, opening the closet to reveal clothing appropriate for ranch life. Jeans, flannel shirts, sturdy boots, and a small cowboy hat hanging on a special hook. "Laura mentioned you might want to try riding once you're stronger," he explained. "These will help you look the part when you're ready." Emma approached the closet slowly, touching the soft flannel with wondering fingers. Her previous wardrobe had been selected entirely by Victoria, consisting primarily of formal dresses and uncomfortable shoes chosen to present the image of perfection the woman had demanded. "I can choose what to wear?" she asked, the concept of such freedom clearly novel. "Every day," Alex promised, "whatever makes you comfortable." A vehicle approaching outside drew their attention. Through the window, they watched a woman in her mid-40s climb from a rugged pickup truck. Her practical clothing and confident movements marked her as someone deeply at home in this landscape. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple braid, her face weathered by sun and wind, but warm with natural kindness. "That's Laura," Alex explained. "Sheriff Foster's sister. She's been helping get everything ready for us." Shadow's ears perked up, but he showed no sign of alarm, a good indicator that the newcomer posed no threat. "Is she nice?" Emma asked, the wariness returning to her voice. "Very nice," Alex assured her. "She trains horses and knows these mountains better than anyone. But you don't have to meet her today if you're not ready. She'll understand." Emma considered this, then squared her small shoulders in a gesture of determination that reminded Alex powerfully of her mother before the accident. "I want to meet her, but—" "Shadow and I will be right beside you," Alex promised, understanding her unspoken concern. Laura Foster Jenkins waited patiently on the porch, making no move to enter uninvited, a courtesy that spoke of her brother's thorough briefing regarding Emma's situation. "Welcome to Whispering Pines," she greeted when they appeared at the door. Her voice carried the same steady quality as her brother's, but softened with a gentle warmth. "I brought some dinner over so you wouldn't have to cook on your first night." She indicated several insulated containers on a nearby table, making no attempt to approach Emma directly. Instead, she knelt to eye level with Shadow, offering her hand palm up in proper greeting. "And you must be the famous Shadow. Garrett's told me all about your bravery." The German shepherd approached cautiously, sniffed her hand, then allowed a brief pat before returning to Emma's side. "He's still on duty," Laura observed with understanding. "Good dog." Her indirect approach had the desired effect. Emma stepped slightly forward, studying the woman with careful assessment. "Do you really have horses?" Laura's face brightened. "I do indeed. 15 of them, including several trained specifically for young riders. When you're feeling stronger, you're welcome to meet them." "I'd like that," Emma decided, her voice gaining confidence. "Wonderful. For now, though, I'll let you settle in." Laura rose, addressing Alex. "There's fresh bread and Montana beef stew in those containers. The fridge and pantry are fully stocked. If you need anything, the ranch house is just a 5-minute drive down the path." "Thank you," Alex said with genuine gratitude, recognizing the thoughtful consideration behind her brief visit. "For everything." "That's what neighbors are for," Laura replied simply, "especially in Montana." After she departed, they settled into the rhythms of their first evening in their new home. Emma showed more appetite than she had in weeks, sampling the hearty stew with growing enthusiasm. After dinner, they sat before the fireplace, Emma leaning against Alex's side while he read aloud from one of her new books, a story about a young girl who befriended wild horses in the Montana wilderness. Shadow maintained his position at their feet, occasionally lifting his head at distant wilderness sounds before determining no threat existed. For the first time since the nightmare began, Alex felt something close to peace settle over them. The safety measures were still in place. Cutting-edge security systems monitored the property perimeter, panic buttons were strategically placed throughout the cabin, and his own weapon remained secured but accessible. Yet these precautions now existed in the background rather than dominating their existence. Later, as Alex helped Emma prepare for bed in her new room, she paused during their nightly routine. "Daddy," she began hesitantly, "will the bad people ever come back?" The question reflected her ongoing struggle with security despite weeks of therapy. Alex sat beside her on the bed, choosing his words carefully. "The people who hurt you are in prison," he explained. "They'll be there for a very, very long time. But even if they weren't," he gestured to include the cabin, the mountains beyond, and Shadow watching from his nearby bed. "You're protected here. By me, by Shadow, by Sheriff Foster and his sister, by these mountains themselves." Emma considered this, small fingers plucking at her blanket. "I still get scared sometimes. In my dreams." "That's normal after what happened," Alex assured her. "Dr. Reynolds explained that our minds need time to understand that we're safe now." "Do you have bad dreams too?" Her perceptiveness sometimes startled him. Alex nodded, deciding honesty would serve her better than protection from difficult truths. "I do. About not reaching you in time. About failing you." "But you didn't fail," Emma said with surprising firmness. "You saved me." "We saved each other," Alex corrected gently, "and we'll keep healing together." This seemed to satisfy her. After their goodnight ritual, checking under the bed and in the closet, ensuring the nightlight was properly positioned, and confirming Shadow was on duty, Emma settled beneath her blankets. For the first time in weeks, she fell asleep without requiring Alex to remain in the room, though Shadow maintained his vigilant position on his nearby bed. Alex stood in the doorway watching them for several minutes, the reality of their survival and this new beginning washing over him in waves. He had come so close to losing everything that mattered. The thought of what might have happened if he hadn't trusted his instincts that day in Denver still chilled him to the core. Outside, the Montana night had descended in spectacular fashion, stars appearing in breathtaking profusion across the vast sky. Without city lights to dim their brilliance, the Milky Way stretched in a luminous band above the mountains. Alex stepped onto the porch, breathing deeply of the pine-scented air. A distant wolf howl echoed through the valley, answered by another farther away. This was the right place for them. He felt it with bone-deep certainty. Over the following weeks, the Montana spring unfurled around them in spectacular fashion. Meadow flowers bloomed in colorful profusion. Wildlife emerged from winter hiding, and the days grew longer and warmer. Emma's physical therapy continued with a local specialist who made weekly visits to the cabin. Her sessions with Dr. Carla Reynolds, the child trauma psychologist Foster had recommended, occurred 3 times weekly through secure video conferencing. Progress revealed itself in small victories. Emma venturing farther from the cabin each day, first to the nearby meadow, then to the small pond beyond. She began collecting wildflowers, pine cones, interesting rocks, creating a nature museum on her bedroom windowsill. Each new treasure represented a step away from fear and toward normal childhood wonder. Shadow accompanied her on these expeditions, his alertness gradually relaxing as the peaceful environment worked its healing influence on both human and canine companions. The dog, who had once reacted to every sound, positioned himself between Emma and any stranger, now allowed her moments of independent exploration within his watchful range. One morning, 2 weeks after their arrival, Emma approached Alex at the breakfast table with uncharacteristic determination. "I want to meet the horses today," she announced. "I'm ready." Alex studied her carefully. Dr. Reynolds had emphasized the importance of respecting Emma's autonomy while ensuring she didn't push herself too quickly. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" Emma nodded, chin raised slightly. "I practiced with my new leg all week. I can walk really good now." "Really well," Alex corrected automatically, then smiled. "Okay, I'll call Laura after breakfast." Laura's delight was evident even through the phone connection. "I'll have everything ready. Come around 10. That's when the horses are most settled." The short drive to the main ranch complex passed through meadows where spring calves frolicked alongside their mothers, the cattle raising curious heads as the vehicle passed. Laura's operation included both horses and cattle, with the horse breeding and training program serving as the ranch's primary income. The stables were impressive, a large timber structure with meticulous attention to detail. The scent of hay, leather, and horses filled the air as they approached. Emma hesitated at the entrance, suddenly uncertain. "We can just look today," Alex assured her. "No pressure." Laura appeared from within, wiping her hands on worn jeans. "Welcome to my favorite place in the world." She greeted them with a warm smile. "I thought we'd start with just meeting a few of the friendliest residents." She led them to a smaller paddock where a golden Palomino mare grazed peacefully in the morning sun. "This is Butterscotch," Laura introduced with obvious affection. "She's trained specifically for young riders, including those with prosthetics." The horse raised her head, regarding them with liquid brown eyes that seemed to contain ancient wisdom. She approached the fence unhurried, her movements fluid and graceful. Emma watched with fascination. "She's beautiful." "Would you like to say hello?" Laura asked. "She loves gentle touches on her nose." After a moment's hesitation, Emma nodded. Laura demonstrated the proper way to offer a flat palm for the horse to investigate. "Let her come to you. Horses are prey animals. They need to know you're safe before they get close." Emma reached out slowly, palm flat as instructed. Butterscotch lowered her head, blowing softly against the child's hand in greeting. "She's saying hello," Laura explained, standing nearby but allowing Emma space to interact independently. "Horses communicate through breath." "Hello, Butterscotch," Emma whispered, a smile transforming her face as the mare nuzzled her palm gently. Shadow sat at a respectful distance, watchful but calm. Over the past weeks, he had gradually adapted to the ranch environment, learning which animals presented no threat to his charge. "Would you like to try sitting on her?" Laura asked after Emma had spent time stroking the mare's neck and shoulders. Emma glanced questioningly at Alex, who nodded encouragement. "I'll be right beside you," he promised. With Laura's expert guidance and Alex's supportive hands, Emma was carefully positioned on Butterscotch's back. The specialized saddle accommodated her prosthetic leg, providing extra security while allowing proper position. "I'm so high up," Emma exclaimed, genuine delight replacing her initial nervousness as Laura led the mare in a slow circle around the paddock. Alex walked alongside, one hand resting lightly on Emma's back, the other ready to catch her if necessary. But the precaution proved unnecessary. Emma sat naturally balanced, her body intuitively adjusting to the horse's gentle movement. "You're a natural," Laura observed with professional assessment. "Butterscotch thinks so too. Look how relaxed her ears are." For the remainder of that session, Emma's face glowed with accomplishment and joy, emotions that had been all too rare during her ordeal. When they eventually returned to the cabin, her excited recounting of the experience continued through lunch and beyond. "Can we go again tomorrow?" she asked as they sat on the porch watching afternoon clouds drift over the mountains. "We'll start with twice weekly, like Dr. Reynolds suggested," Alex replied, heart lightened by her enthusiasm. "Building gradually is important for your leg." "Butterscotch didn't care about my leg," Emma noted thoughtfully. "She treated me just like any other kid." "Animals often see us more clearly than people do," Alex agreed, recognizing another healing moment in her observation. The riding sessions became the cornerstone of their new routine. Emma's progress was remarkable, her confidence growing with each visit to the stables. Laura proved to be an exceptional teacher, patient yet encouraging, always respecting Emma's boundaries while gently expanding her comfort zone. By early June, Emma had advanced to short trail rides on the gentler paths around the ranch. The first time she guided Butterscotch independently across a meadow, Alex had to blink back tears at the sight of her straight back and proud smile. Shadow trotted alongside, adapting to this new activity with the same dedication he brought to all aspects of Emma's protection. Alex divided his time between Emma's care and necessary business obligations conducted remotely. He had appointed his longtime COO, Rebecca Chen, as acting CEO of Morgan Cybersecurity, maintaining final oversight of critical decisions, but relinquishing day-to-day operations. The Pentagon contract remained secure, with additional security protocols implemented following the Kane conspiracy. The company continued to thrive despite his reduced involvement, a revelation that both surprised and liberated him. Their existence developed a gentle rhythm, therapy sessions, school lessons conducted via specialized online programs, riding with Laura, exploring the nearby forests and meadows. The cabin, initially temporary housing, while the main house underwent renovation, had become a sanctuary filled with new memories replacing the darker ones they'd carried from Colorado. One warm July morning, as they sat on the cabin porch enjoying breakfast, Sheriff Foster's vehicle appeared on the access road. Though his visits had become routine during his frequent trips to see Laura, his arrival midweek was unexpected. "Official business today," he explained as he climbed the porch steps, uniform replacing his usual casual attire during social visits. Emma tensed slightly, years of trauma response not yet fully resolved. Alex placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Good news, actually," Foster clarified, noting Emma's reaction. "The last of Kane's associates was arrested yesterday in Singapore. The entire network has been dismantled." Relief washed through Alex, though their new security measures and remote location had created a protective bubble around their daily lives. The knowledge that Kane's organization still had operatives at large had remained a background concern. "That calls for celebration," Alex decided, deliberately keeping his tone light for Emma's benefit. "Laura mentioned something about a special trail ride to the waterfall this weekend. Maybe we could move that up to today?" Emma's expression brightened immediately. "Can we, Sheriff Foster? Would Laura mind?" "I happen to know she's free this morning," Foster replied with a smile. "And I believe Butterscotch would enjoy the outing." While Emma rushed inside to change into her riding clothes, Foster provided Alex with additional details in lowered tones. "The Singapore arrest yielded significant intelligence," he explained. "Financial records, communication logs, evidence of operations dating back decades. The FBI believes they've identified every individual connected to Project Morgan." "So it's truly over," Alex said, the weight of vigilance easing slightly from his shoulders. As over as these things get, Foster confirmed, the federal prosecutor called this morning. The last appeal attempt by Hayes was denied. All sentences stand as originally determined. Alex nodded, processing this final closure. Victoria Rebecca would remain incarcerated for the next 3 decades. Kane would likely die in prison, given his age and sentence length. The threat that had nearly destroyed his family was permanently neutralized. "Thank you," he said simply, the words inadequate for the support Foster had provided throughout the ordeal. The sheriff acknowledged the gratitude with a slight nod. "How's she doing?" he asked, glancing toward the cabin where Emma could be heard chattering excitedly to Shadow about the upcoming ride. "Better every day," Alex replied truthfully. "The nightmares are less frequent. She's making progress with Dr. Reynolds on processing the trauma. The riding therapy has been particularly effective." "And you?" Foster's perceptive gaze assessed the changes in his former comrade. Alex considered the question thoughtfully. "Different," he finally answered. "Priorities permanently rearranged. The company continues without my constant involvement. Turns out I wasn't as indispensable as I thought." "Humbling," Foster observed with understanding. "And liberating," Alex added. "I've been offered 8 figures for acquisition deals this month alone. Previously, I wouldn't have considered selling for any amount. Now," he gestured toward the cabin, the mountains beyond, the simple life they had constructed here. "This matters. She matters. The rest is just details." Emma reappeared in riding clothes, excitement radiating from her small frame. "I'm ready." The trail ride to the waterfall became the first of many celebrations marking their new beginning. Emma's progress accelerated throughout the summer and into fall, each milestone, riding independently, swimming in the ranch pond, completing her first unassisted hike, representing victory over trauma and limitation. By September, Emma began attending the small local school, accompanied by Shadow, who had been officially certified as her service animal. The rural Montana community accepted them without judgment, treating Emma's prosthetic as unremarkable and respecting the protective boundary maintained by both Alex and Shadow. Dr. Reynolds reduced their sessions to weekly check-ins, declaring Emma's recovery remarkable, though ongoing. The child who had once trembled at sudden movements now laughed freely, made friends cautiously but genuinely, and spoke of future possibilities with growing confidence. Alex's transformation proved equally profound. The driven CEO who had measured success in billion-dollar contracts and technological breakthroughs now found fulfillment in simpler accomplishments. Emma's first independent canter on butterscotch, the successful construction of a treehouse workspace where he could conduct necessary business calls while remaining within sight of the cabin, the gradual restoration of the main house where they planned to move before winter arrived. The renovation project had become a shared passion, with Emma offering input on color choices and room designs. She had claimed the corner bedroom with its panoramic mountain views, planning a space where other kids like me can stay when they come to visit. The idea of creating a sanctuary for children with experiences similar to hers had taken root in Emma's heart, growing stronger as her own healing progressed. One crisp October afternoon, as crimson and gold leaves painted the Montana landscape in autumn glory, Alex sat on the porch completing a video conference with his executive team. Emma and Shadow had just returned from the school bus drop-off point at the main road, the child chattering happily about her day, while the dog maintained his protective position slightly ahead of her. "We should celebrate," Alex announced after ending the call. "The Sentinel project received final approval today. The company's future is secure for the next decade." Emma climbed the porch steps, settling beside him on the swing he had installed during summer renovations. "Does that mean you'll go back to the old office?" The question contained no accusation, merely childish curiosity, yet it gave Alex pause. The company's success should have pulled him back toward his former life. Board meetings, international travel, the relentless pursuit of the next technological breakthrough. Yet the thought held no appeal compared to their hard-won peace here. "No," he decided, the word feeling right as it left his mouth. "Rebecca is doing an excellent job as CEO. I'll maintain oversight through video conferences and quarterly visits. My place is here, with you." Emma leaned against his side, contentment radiating from her small form. "I like it here," she declared. "The mountains make me feel safe." "They make me feel small," Alex admitted, gazing toward the majestic peaks now dusted with early snow. "In a good way." They remind me what's truly important. Shadow alerted suddenly, ears forward as he detected movement along the access road. Moments later, Laura's truck appeared, followed by Foster's patrol vehicle. Looks like we have company, Alex observed, recognizing the routine visit pattern they had established. Emma jumped up excitedly. Can I show Sheriff Foster my science project? I got an A+. Of course, Alex agreed, watching her race inside to retrieve the project, Shadow following faithfully. Her enthusiasm for sharing achievements, a normal childhood behavior that had been suppressed under Victoria's critical regime, represented another healing milestone. Laura reached the porch first, carrying a covered dish that emanated delicious aromas. Elk stew, she announced. Tom's hunting trip was successful. Thought you might appreciate something hearty with the weather turning. You're spoiling us, Alex protested without conviction, accepting the dish gratefully. Hardly, Laura replied with a warm smile. You two have become family. Besides, Emma's been helping with the yearlings. That girl has a gift with horses that deserves payment in home cooking at minimum. Foster arrived moments later, greeting them with his characteristic reserved warmth before being enthusiastically intercepted by Emma returning with her science project, a detailed model of mountain watershed systems she had created with Laura's guidance. As Emma proudly demonstrated the project's working water flow, Alex observed the scene with quiet appreciation. This extended family they had formed, Foster's steadfast presence, Laura's practical nurturing, even Tom's quiet support through occasional hunting lessons for Alex, had provided critical stability during their healing journey. Later that evening, after their visitors departed and dinner concluded, Alex and Emma followed their established ritual of walking to the ridge behind the cabin. The viewpoint offered spectacular vistas across the valley, especially magnificent as sunset painted the western sky in brilliant orange and crimson. Emma settled on their usual boulder, prosthetic leg extended comfortably before her. Shadow took his position slightly higher on the ridge, ever vigilant despite the peaceful setting. I had the hospital dream again last night, Emma said suddenly, breaking their companionable silence. Alex gave her his full attention, recognizing the importance of these spontaneous communications. Dr. Reynolds had emphasized the healing value of Emma processing her experiences through unprompted discussion rather than structured therapy sessions alone. The same one? He asked gently. Emma nodded. Where the bad man comes to take me away. But it was different this time. She paused, gathering thoughts. In the dream, I wasn't scared anymore. I knew you and Shadow would come. We always will, Alex promised, hearing the significant progress in her recounting. The nightmare's power was diminishing, transformed by her growing sense of security. And I was stronger too, Emma continued thoughtfully. In the dream, I told him he couldn't hurt me anymore. Pride swelled in Alex's chest, not the superficial pride Victoria had demanded through perfection and performance, but profound appreciation for Emma's innate resilience. You are stronger, he affirmed, stronger than anyone I know. Emma considered this, absently tracing patterns on her prosthetic's decorated surface. Dr. Reynolds says sometimes bad things happen that aren't our fault, but we get to decide what happens next. Dr. Reynolds is very wise, Alex agreed, recognizing his daughter's recitation of therapeutic principles that had helped her process trauma. I've decided, Emma announced with surprising conviction, gazing toward the mountains now silhouetted against the darkening sky. I want to stay here forever and help other kids like me. Like you? Alex prompted gently. Kids with different legs, or kids who had bad people hurt them. Emma's expression reflected determination beyond her years. I could show them how to ride horses and climb mountains, and how not to be scared anymore. The simplicity and profound compassion of her declaration momentarily robbed Alex of words. This child, who had endured deliberate cruelty, now sought to transform her experience into healing for others, a courage and generosity of spirit that humbled him completely. I think that's a wonderful dream, he finally managed, voice rough with emotion. Emma nodded decisively. Not just a dream, a plan. Laura says proper planning makes dreams come true. Laura is right, Alex agreed, mentally adding this aspiration to the growing list of Emma's interests he intended to nurture. Perhaps the adjacent property that had recently become available would provide space for the therapeutic riding program Emma envisioned in her future. "And you'll help me?" she asked, a hint of the old uncertainty surfacing briefly. Alex wrapped an arm around her shoulders, drawing her close against the evening chill. "With everything I have, we'll build it together." Shadow moved closer, sensing the changing temperature as evening approached. "Time to head back," Alex suggested, rising from the boulder and offering Emma his hand. She accepted the assistance, not from necessity, but from the simple comfort of connection. And together they began the short walk back toward the cabin lights glowing warmly in the valley below. Shadow led the way, occasionally pausing to ensure they followed. As they reached the cabin porch, Emma looked back toward the darkened ridge they had left. "The stars are brighter here than they were at the old house," she observed. "Less light pollution," Alex explained. "Out here, nothing interferes with seeing them clearly." Emma seemed to consider this deeply. "That's like us now," she finally said with surprising insight. "Before, there was too much bad stuff in the way. Now we can see better." Alex knelt to her level, once again struck by her innate wisdom. "That's exactly right, sweetheart." She smiled, a full, unguarded expression that had once been rare but now appeared with increasing frequency. "I'm glad we're here, Daddy, even though the bad things happened first." "So am I," he replied truthfully, "though I wish you had never been hurt." "If we weren't hurt, we wouldn't be here," Emma reasoned with straightforward logic. "And I like who we are now." The profound simplicity of her statement struck Alex deeply. Through unimaginable trauma, they had discovered essential truths about themselves and each other. The pain could never be erased, but it had been transformed into something meaningful, a foundation for genuine connection, for prioritizing what truly mattered, for building a life of purpose rather than mere achievement. 3 months later, snow-blanketed Whispering Pines Ranch in pristine white. The renovated main house stood warm and inviting against the winter landscape, smoke curling from its stone chimney into the crystal-clear Montana sky. Christmas decorations adorned the windows and porch, a first for both Alex and Emma since the tragedy that had altered their lives. Inside, the great room buzzed with quiet activity. Emma and Laura worked at the dining table, sorting through drawings submitted by an architect specializing in adaptive facilities. The plans for Second Chance Ranch, Emma's dream of a sanctuary for children recovering from trauma, had moved from concept to initial design phase with remarkable speed. "I think the riding arena should be closer to the cabins," Emma suggested, her confidence in expressing opinions growing steadily. "So kids don't have to walk too far in winter." Laura nodded approval. "Excellent point. We'll mark that change for the next revision." Shadow dozed before the fireplace, his vigilance now tempered by security in their surroundings. Though still protective, he had gradually transitioned from constant guard duty to balanced companionship, mirroring Emma's own healing journey. Alex observed them from his home office alcove, where he had just completed the final details of Morgan Cybersecurity's partial acquisition. The deal would provide funding for Emma's foundation while allowing him to maintain oversight of the Sentinel project's security protocols. The corporate empire he had built would continue under trusted leadership, its resources now redirected toward more meaningful purposes. Rebecca Chen's face smiled from the video call screen. "The papers are filed, Alex. It's official." "Thank you for everything, Rebecca," he replied with genuine gratitude. "The company couldn't be in better hands." "We'll miss you in the boardroom," she admitted, "but this new direction makes sense. The Morgan Foundation for Child Recovery has enormous potential." Alex glanced toward Emma, now laughing at something Laura had said. "It was never about the technology," he realized aloud. "It was always about protection. I just needed to understand what truly needed protecting." After concluding the call, Alex joined them at the table. "How's the planning coming along?" Emma looked up with excitement. "We figured out where everything should go. Laura says we might be able to start building in spring." "That's fantastic," Alex replied, his heart full at the sight of her enthusiasm. The child who had once been silenced by fear now spoke with passion about helping others, the most profound healing he could have imagined. The doorbell rang, announcing Garrett Foster's arrival with the final guests for their small Christmas gathering. The sheriff entered with Tom and Dr. Reynolds, who had relocated her practice to Bozeman, partly to continue Emma's care. As they settled around the fire with mugs of hot chocolate, exchanging stories and laughter, Alex found himself momentarily overwhelmed by the journey that had brought them here. From the nightmare of that snowy night in Colorado to this peaceful Montana Christmas, they had traversed landscapes, both external and internal. Later, as Emma prepared for bed in her new room overlooking the snow-covered mountains, she paused by the window. "Daddy," she said quietly, "I don't have the bad dreams anymore." Alex joined her, following her gaze to the star-filled sky above the silent landscape. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I have different dreams now," she continued, "about helping kids find their brave like I did." "You'll help many children," he assured her, knowing the determination that drove her healing would serve others equally well. Emma turned from the window, her expression solemn yet peaceful. "Mom would be proud of us, wouldn't she? My real mom." The unexpected question caught Alex off guard, emotion tightening his throat. "Yes," he managed after a moment. "Jennifer would be incredibly proud of you. She always believed you were destined for something special." Emma nodded, satisfied. "I remember her sometimes. Not her face, but her voice. She used to tell me stories about brave girls who saved others." "She did," Alex confirmed, memories of his first wife washing through him with unexpected gentleness. "She always knew you would be one of those brave girls." After Emma was settled in bed, Shadow in his customary position nearby, Alex stepped onto the porch. The Montana night embraced him with crystalline clarity, stars blazing across the velvet darkness, mountains standing sentinel against the horizon. In the distance, a wolf called to its pack, the sound ancient and somehow comforting. He thought of all they had endured, the betrayal, the pain, the fear, and the unexpected gifts that had emerged from that darkness. Emma's resilience and compassion, his own rediscovered capacity for presence and purpose. The family they had built here, not of blood but of choice and commitment. The cruel blizzard that had nearly claimed them had instead transformed them, much as winter's harshest storms prepare the earth for spring's most vibrant renewal. Where there had been frozen ground, new life now emerged, different perhaps from what might have grown before, but stronger for having survived the cold. Alex breathed deeply of the pine-scented air, his breath forming clouds of vapor in the frigid night. The bitter cold that had once been weapon-turned-teacher had no power to harm them now. They had learned its lessons, endured its testing, and emerged not just survivors, but thrivers. Inside, Emma slept peacefully, dreaming not of past trauma, but of future healing. Outside, the Montana winter continued its ancient cycle, snow falling gently now, covering the landscape in fresh possibility. And between these worlds stood Alex Morgan, former warrior, forever father, guardian no longer of secrets, but of something far more precious, hope itself, born in the crucible of suffering, nurtured by love, and now offered as gift to others walking similar paths through their own personal winters. The snowfall thickened, soft flakes drifting from the endless sky. Alex watched them descend, no longer seeing in them the cruelty of that first blizzard, but rather the gentle blessing of renewal. Each flake unique, impermanent, yet part of a greater transformative power. "We made it," he whispered to the night, words carried away on the winter wind, perhaps to reach wherever Jennifer's spirit might dwell, or perhaps simply to mark for himself the journey's milestone. Then he turned back toward the warmth of their home, toward the sleeping child whose courage had shown him the way forward, toward the future they would build together from the broken pieces of their past, a mosaic more beautiful for having been shattered and reformed. Outside, the winter stars continued their silent witness, ancient light illuminating new paths through the darkness. Inside, the fire burned steadily against the cold, much like the resilient human spirit that refuses to surrender its essential warmth even to the cruelest blizzard.